11-time Grammy winner, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductee, Nobel Prize winner, not that he showed up in person to deliver the acceptance speech. This bard started out by being kicked out of his high school talent show. Welcome to Bespoke Folks and Tales, where we combine the entertainment of storytelling with the fun of trivia. We tell trivia stories inside out. Do you know who I'm talking about? Let's go! Robbie had always been his own man. Not a bad kid, just always on a quest to find his own identity. Maybe just a little bit too freewheeling for some. Growing up in the 1940s and 50s in such a tight-knit Jewish community, he yearned to explore other facets of his personality. He seemed to enjoy challenging expectations of himself, rebellious but poetic, enigmatic and introspective, but also witty and quite influential. Oh, the times they were a-changin', and the spirit had gotten into Robbie's very bones. He could dive into such classics as Moby Dick by Herman Melville or The Odyssey by Homer, but his real favorite was anything written by the poet Dylan Thomas. This led Robbie to explore themes such as the depth of a man's soul, good versus evil, isolation and alienation, or the role of fate and faith, themes that would push many grown adults to the edge of their wits. At the same time, he eagerly soaked up music played on the radio, first blues and country stations, and then later that new sound that was getting people worked up, that rock and roll type sound. It was this new rock and roll sound that would change the axis of the earth for young Robbie. He couldn't just sit and listen to it. He consumed it, devoured it even. Like a drug, as soon as he was through with one, he needed to have the next. It was this passion that led Robbie to form several bands while still in high school. Performing mostly covers of Little Richard and Elvis Presley, it would state in his high school yearbook that he was to join Little Richard. But his band's performance at the school's talent show didn't go quite as planned. As the group started into their rendition of Danny and the Juniors' song, Rock and Roll is Here to Stay, they were cut off, although maybe not entirely unexpectedly. The principal had pulled the plug on the group, saying they were too loud. This setback didn't hold off Robbie for long. He would play 2 performances that year with a well-known teen idol of the time, Bobby V. Though Robbie's heart may lay in music, it was off to college not long thereafter. He attended just long enough, just 1 year, which was just enough to transform our high school Hellcat into the man the world would get to know and remember. As Robbie would later say, the thing about rock and roll is that for me anyway, it wasn't enough. There were great catchphrases and driving pulse rhythms, but the songs weren't serious or didn't reflect life in a realistic way. I knew that when I got into folk music, it was more of a serious type of thing. The songs are filled with more despair, more sadness, more triumph, more faith in the supernatural, much deeper feelings. Well, our poor Robbie was onto something. He dropped out of college after that first year. Like a rolling stone, he would move to New York City. And when he did, he would reinvent himself. He would no longer introduce himself as Robbie Zimmerman, the little Jewish boy from St. Louis County, Minnesota. No, he would introduce himself as Bob Dylan, Dylan after his favorite poet Dylan Thomas. He would be a man that defined the sound of a generation. Of course, he would go on to win multiple Grammy Awards, be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and even win a Nobel Prize for Literature. His son would also be a well-known musician and singer in his own time. Jacob Dylan would be the lead singer of the rock band The Wallflowers. At what point did you know who I was talking about? Drop me a comment below if you knew it was Bob Dylan, and I'll see you next time on Bespoke Folks and Tales. If you enjoyed that story, you'll like this one as well. Check it out!